Right, I'd like to welcome everyone here to the Planning Applications Committee meeting in the Civic and those observing the meeting on Microsoft Teams. Fire alarm procedure, there are no drills expected this evening, so in the event of an alarm sounding, please quickly make your way out to the building. There are 3 exits from this room which members can use to vacate the premises. Switch mobile phones onto silent or switch them off and take any calls outside of the meeting room. Do not leave any possessions unaccompanied and/or report any unaccompanied possessions. Remember to take any possessions with you when the meeting is concluded or as you leave the meeting. This meeting may be subject to filming or audio recording by others in accordance with the Council's filming protocol. Anyone who remains in the meeting following this announcement will have deemed to have consented to allow their image to be recorded and broadcast. Thank you. Go on to the agenda proper. Item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Have been received by Councillor Swinscoe. Councillor Abbs will be substituting for Councillor Swinscoe.
Thank you. Are there any apologies from the floor? Councillor Anne Bell. He is in hospital. Any other apologies? No. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I have none indicated. Thank you. Move on to item 3. The minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of September 25. We have a proposal of the minutes of the Planning Applications Committee held on the 1st of September. Anyone who was there? Councillor Stevenson, Councillor Hammersley. Are there any amendments? No. Could I have a show of hands? All those in favour who were there? That's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 4. That's the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of October 25. Could I have a proposer and seconder for those minutes? Councillor Stevenson, Councillor Coxhead. Any amendments for accuracy? Any indication? Could I have a show of hands again, those who are present, please? All those in favour? Any abstentions? Any against? Thank you, that's carried unanimously by the ones who are here. Move on to agenda item 5, which is the planning application reference 2025-00064, erection of 33 number affordable dwellings, associated access road, infiltration basin, pumping station and landscaping, land to the south of Debdale Lane adjacent to Hollyoak Drive and Emerald Close, Mansfield. I invite the officer to make the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So there are just for the attention of the committee, there are a couple of updates for the application. So the proposal was reconsulted before the meeting, so that was to ensure that residents had an opportunity to comment on the there'd been amended proposed amendments to the layout to deal with some highways issues that had been raised during the process. So the reconsultation took place this month. There's been 6 objections received. To my understanding, no new residents commented based on the original set of consultations, and there were no new material considerations raised as a result of that reconsultation. But just for clarity, there were 6 representations received as part of that. There is, following discussions with our legal officer, there has been a slight amendment to the recommendation on the affordable housing scheme to be provided. So it's just to provide more clarity on what would be required to be submitted as part of the Section 106 agreement. So the wording is recommended to be updated to say affordable housing scheme will require 100% affordable housing, with the tenure to be to be agreed. Just a word on that. There's not exact tenure details at this moment, but the applicant is East Midlands Housing, and it's the Queen's Endowed Trust. The indication is that it will be social rent, although I can't confirm that at this stage. But the actual head of terms will be 100% affordable housing to be provided. So that's it really for updates. So if I'll go up a series of slides, mainly plans and just some photos to update the committee on. So the site is an allocated site for approximately 32 houses, as allocated by policy H1P of the Mansfield Local Plan. So it's been allocated since at least 2024 housing. There's not any housing or history of planning applications on this site. The site's in the northeast. It's in the northeast of Mansfield, so it's on to the south of Debdale Lane, to the east of the Chesterfield Road Abbott Road junction. So sort of going to Debdale Lane going east towards Mansfield Woodhouse. So this slide's probably one that I'll probably do the most talking around, really, because it shows the broad layout. So the proposal, so there is a policy requirement on the site to maintain a habitat buffer on the eastern flank of the site, that's because there's a series of mature trees which forms a belt of woodland, which is protected, and that's got the most ecological interest. So the sort of the quantum of developments that had to effectively be focused away from that part of the site, and the attenuation and landscaping has been focused on the northern boundary. That's mainly due to land levels. The site, kind of the way that the site effectively slopes, it's meant that the attenuation was most appropriate. The surface water flood risk is elevated on that part of the site, so it's been effectively deemed appropriate for a pumping station, attenuation and landscaping to be prioritized on that sort of part of the site. So that's partially the reason why the houses are sort of allocated or clustered away from that. You've got really a central perimeter block of houses. So the mix is broadly, it's 1, 2 and 3 bedroom dwellings. The 4 bungalows on the southern boundary, they're the only 1-bedroom units on the site. Otherwise, the mix is, broadly speaking, it's 2 and 3 bedroom houses. That was considered to be acceptable given the circumstances. There's no 4-bedroom units across the mix, because obviously, given the nature of the tenure, obviously the western boundary is a mixture of 2 and 3 bedroom dwellings. Next slide, please. So next slide. So that's just a block plan of the site. So it's broadly showing the same thing, but it's a bit more utilitarian, just to show sort of the broad sort of appearance from a bird's eye view of the houses. So it's slate roof, red brick, fairly standard material appearance. Next slide, please. So this is the typical cross section. So it's not optimal for sort of showing the relationship, but it just shows how the land levels change. The only residential dwelling shown on there, that's a perpendicular facing to the site, but it sort of shows there's a gentle slope increase across the site as you sort of move towards where the main quantum is. The top of the image is showing a typical dwelling that would front onto Debdale Lane, and then the perimeter block that would be sitting in the centre of the site. The bottom half just shows the bungalows that were on the southern boundary that were previously shown on the layout. There's a significant level drop off from Emerald Close, despite the close proximity, just to sort of the ridge height sort of give that impression. Next slide, please. So this is the next 2 plans. They're fairly technical, so I won't go into sort of those. The right hand side of the image is just technical landscaping detail, so it's mainly just for information. The landscaping will be a mixture of native landscaping in the green areas. Amongst the plots, it's going to be mostly sort of typical closed board fencing, soft boundary treatments, fronting public facing areas, public vantage points. So it serves to sort of reduce the visual intrusion of the development. So you can sort of see the softer boundary treatment sort of along the main sort of where the mouth of the access is on the road facing dwellings. There's a lack of cross-sectional detail on those landscaping details, so we have requested conditions just for further detail on means of enclosure, just so that we can get sort of a clearer idea as to how that would look before the development is completed. Next slide, please. So this is sort of the same again, just showing what the landscaping would look like sort of on the eastern boundary of the site. As I said, there is an element of tree planting on the to mitigate the impact of the development. Broadly speaking, the scheme does deliver a 10% biodiversity net gain. That's a mixture of on-site and off-site provision. There's obviously been a maximum attempt to maximise what can be delivered on-site in combination with the attenuation. Next slide, please. So the next series of slides, these show these are just site photos, so showing just a mixture of different viewpoints on the site. So this is from the north side of Debdale Lane, looking south east-ish towards the existing dwellings on Hollyhock Drive. So that would be where the western dwellings were situated. Next slide, please. So this is again, so that's the next slides broadly, that's looking towards, so the bottom left of that image, that's where the attenuation would be to stop, just to really mitigate both increased landscaping and reduce visual impact, but also to mitigate the land levels. That's there's a belt of surface water flood risk that's we've looked to mitigate. The flood authority are happy with that, subject to the standard conditions, so there will be further details required prior to the commencement of development, and the Environment Agency haven't provided any substantive comments. Next slide, please. So this is more broadly showing the same again. So this is just zooming in just to show you can see the level difference in the mature boundary treatments facing onto the south side of the site. Next slide, please. So this is just an image along Debdale Lane, so that's facing away from the existing houses. So just to give a sense as to this is the policy requirements to maintain a habitat buffer. Oh, we've gone back one. So okay, sorry about that. So yeah, this one, the previous slide was just showing the relationship with the existing dwellings. This one is showing facing away from the site. So the reason for the habitat buffer is the majority of the sort of the mature mature landscaping, wildlife interest or ecological interest is on that eastern boundary. So more of a justification for the layout, really. Next slide, please. So this is just a view from Hollyhock Drive. So it's at sort of the far southwestern part of the layout. Again, during the debate, we can sort of circle back to this if needed. This is just sort of showing the bungalows along the sort of adjacent to the southwestern part of the site are perpendicular to the dwellings, but obviously the existing dwellings will be end to end. That on the layout is labelled dwelling. It's actually a double garage with a turning head. So that's where the block of terraces are. Next slide, please. So this is the this is Emerald Close. So that's where the 4 bungalows were sited. There's quite a land level difference between the main site itself and the actual existing dwellings on Emerald Close. So there's no amenity concern there directly, and the actual ridge heights of the bungalows would be broadly comparable to the existing dwellings on Emerald Close. So the impact there was determined to be acceptable at officer level. I think just as a general point, obviously there are a number of various concerns that have been raised by residents in the comments received. I think as just a general sort of cleaning up point, there's been no objections from any statutory or technical consultees. Highways in particular are happy with the proposal, subject to a number of conditions, including gradient, surfacing, and maintenance of the access to ensure that it's maintained to a safe standard. And the recommendation is before the committee tonight is to approve, subject to the conditions and the obligations in the draft head of terms, subject to the amended wording. As such, the recommendation remains to approve Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Daniel. I've got 2 public speakers, so I'd like to invite Gary Barnes to the podium. There's a mistake on this list then. I'll invite Diane Barnes to the podium. If you press the center of your recording thing, the little red light will come on You've got 4 minutes, Diane.
Can you hear me? So, Chair, councillors, members of the Planning Committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm here to register our strong objection to the application for 33 houses. Whilst we all recognise the need for sustainable development, this proposal is unsafe, unsustainable and unacceptable. The plan for 100% affordable housing raises serious planning concerns. I'd like to cover 7 points. Highways and traffic impact. Let's start with the most pressing issue is traffic. 33 homes means an additional 66 parking spaces and potentially 200 to 300 extra vehicle movements every single day. Our roads are already at breaking point, queues stretch back to Chesterfield Road and Abbott Road at peak times on a daily basis. Access roads are narrow, some without pavements, junctions are at pinch points, and an additional junction means more traffic congestion and more accidents. In addition to a proposed development on Abbott Road, Beck Lane, approximate number of houses unknown, this significantly underestimates current flows and doesn't account for seasonal peaks, school traffic, heavy vans or future growth. We're not aware of a planned traffic survey or any mitigation. Construction traffic would make this even worse. Road safety. This area suffers from limited sight lines, high speeds and few safe crossings, many destroyed by accidents, and currently 2 of the 3 crossing points are out of action due to accidents. The proposal includes no improvements, no footpaths, no lighting, no crossings, no traffic calming. It's a clear failure to protect pedestrians and cyclists, a clear conflict with the council's duty to prioritise safety for all road users, including the most vulnerable. Infrastructure. Our roads are deteriorating, junctions are congested, parking spills onto pavements, bus services are poor and there is no safe walking or cycling routes. Infrastructure should come first and here it's lagging behind. The cumulative impact is not an isolated scheme. Other developments nearby will pile pressure onto roads, schools, GP surgeries and drainages. There's currently approximately 500 new homes being built in the Abbott Road area alone in the last few years. National policy says infrastructure is first. This proposal ignores this completely. Residential amenity. Behind Hollyhock Drive, there are planned 2-storey homes that will overlook bungalows and houses, destroying privacy, daylight, shading to gardens and homes. Original plans proposed by Ripon 16 years ago showed green space directly behind these properties. Why has this changed? Flooding is already a problem. Lowering the site will make it worse, even with attenuation pond proposed. 100% affordable housing. Affordable housing matters, but not like this. National and local policy demand mixed communities, not single 10-year estates. This site lacks this in totality and goes against the recommendation of best practice. In Mansfield Local Plan 5.1, which I won't go into at this point, there's a line that says we should offer a wide choice of high quality homes, broadening opportunities for home ownership and creating sustainable, inclusive and mixed communities. We will have loss of green space, wildlife, gain noise pollution, pressure on local services, healthcare and community services. This design does not match that of the area. As referenced on
30 seconds remaining.
As referenced on East Midlands website, their aim is to support vulnerable, homeless, mental health and ex-offenders. Placing this category of people together in local community is asking for issues. In summary, we ask that this application, you refuse the whole of this application. It's premature, unsafe, unsustainable and unsuitable for the location. The road network simply cannot cope and traffic assessments are flawed. Vital infrastructure is simply not in place. In addition to the 100% affordable scheme, undermining community balance. Thank you. I urge that you reject this application.
Thank you. Do members have any questions of the speaker?
Thanks very much for coming and thanks for your presentation. Can you just give us a bit of context in terms of where you live? Because I've noticed that you just, can I just finish? Okay. So you've mentioned sort of blocking light. Is your house 2-storey?
Are there any other questions? Councillor Jackson?
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, what do you use that space for? You as in residents, what do you currently use that? It's a field, isn't it? What's that currently used for? Okay, thank you.
Can't allow members of the public to interact.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Allowed you to make the comment, but we'll get to that when we get to Alan's part. Any further questions? No? Thank you. I did deviate from procedure because on my list it was supposed to be Gary Barnes who was making that speech. But I allowed Diane to do the speech. It's not normal. And when it right, well, there's been a mistake because it's been put on my list as you, not you, but Gary. Do you want to clear that one up, Mark? You, Mark. According to my list, the next object is Justin Erasmus. Like to come down. Same thing, Justin. If you press the middle button on off, your red light will come on. You got 4 minutes then. Thank you.
Chair, members, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Debdale Road cannot take more traffic. Residents believe that there are more sensible vacant areas with less impact and de-stress to the community to build on. We object to the development in its entirety. Development site is an attractive greenfield edge settlement site that currently provides a clear visual and physical break between Mansfield and the open countryside. Scheme would urbanize that gap, removing the soft semi-rural edge and replacing it with a dense inward-looking estate dominated by roads and front parking. That is directly at odds with the NPPF and policies P2, P3 and P4, which expect development to add to the quality of the area, respect local character, and integrate with its surroundings. Development results in the loss of valuable green space that residents, including the elderly, learning disabled and families use for dog walking and exercise. I witness that daily. There are no other facilities close by, and that residents don't have to cross busy and dangerous roads to get to. This space contributes to the community's physical and mental well-being. Moving it would have a direct negative impact on public. This open space is an essential amenity to the community. The development layout is a dated cul-de-sac pattern that turns its back on the wider area. Most of the green open space pushed into one corner instead of being used to soften the site edges. The result is a hard, visually jarring form of development that fails to provide a proper transition to the countryside. The proposal will aggravate traffic congestion immensely, pushing queuing vehicles back into the busy Debdale intersection. A couple of hundred homes are already being built along the A6075. Currently, there are 7 lanes leading directly into Debdale intersection. and 3 streets from Debdale side within 300 meters from the intersection. This development will add a 4th street. This creates unsafe turning movements, increased delay for residents, and a real risk to the emergency vehicle access. This road network simply cannot afford and absorb additional pressure. Entry and exit to Little Debdale is already dangerous and congested. We are not even talking about the construction site and the construction vehicles. The development causes serious overlooking, especially to the Hollyhock, and a loss of privacy to existing homes. There are also serious residential amenity issues. 14 and 15 would sit very close to the garden of number 6 Emerald Club. All bungalows causing overbearing effects and loss of light. Blocks 5 to 13 back directly onto the short gardens of Hollyhock Drive. 2-story houses look straight into existing gardens, rear windows of living. That means a loss of privacy, outlook, and sunlight for existing residents. Contrary to the policy P7 and the NPPF requirement for a high standard of amenity. Our amenity as residents, amenity space needs to be protected. Developers have not considered the adjacent residents at all. Councillors, please study the site.
Seconds remaining.
The proposal raises genuine safety and security concerns with more vehicle movement. The site is home to the important life, the local wildlife, including deer, foxes, and bats and badgers. Development would disturb or displace these species, and insufficient ecological protection has been provided. Currently, this is a dark area where bats circulate and feed. The value of our homes will depreciate drastically. These reasons, we respectfully request that the council refuses this application. Thank you so much.
Do members have any questions of the speaker? We've had no indications. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
As was alluded to, Councillor Bell was going to address the committee, but he's been taken ill, he's in hospital. I've had no communication from Alan. Has anyone else received anything? Nothing's come to Democratic Services. So unfortunately, Alan won't be speaking tonight, and we've got no statement from him. So.
Thank you. Usually got a loud enough voice, but hey. My question is about the access. Am I right in understanding that there is not going to be any access directly off Debdale Lane? It will be off Little Debdale Lane, or will there be an access point off Debdale Lane? Because I'm not clear from that map. Thank you.
So yeah, that's correct. The main that's the only so the only other so the main access, it's a single point of access for all of the houses, which has been it's been looked at by Highways in detail, and it's been accepted as complying with the standard geometric requirements of the design guide. The only other access off the site is on the far southwestern corner between the semi-detached dwellings. There's three clusters of 2 sets of semis, and then you've got a little gap. That's a public right of way which is to be retained, but that's not a vehicle access. It's just a pedestrian one. So the main access will be onto the main road, not from Little Debdale. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's just, it might be, Phil, can you just go back to the slide before? It's a little bit clearer. So on the top left of that image, you see there's like a row of 4 dwellings, and then there's a gap, and then there's the pumping station. It's roughly where the red mouse is. That's the access onto Debdale Lane. So that will be the access point for all vehicular traffic to and from the site. And that's been accepted by Highways as being acceptable and assessed. And we've got those conditions to ensure that the boundary hedges on that are maintained to an appropriate standard, so visibility is maintained.
Councillor Abbs.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Well, a couple actually, really. One is about the traffic on Debdale Lane itself. Has that been looked into? And well, that one first, because my concern would be the amount of traffic that's already on there.
Councillor, yeah, no, it's a concern. I drive around that area, and I know it's incredibly busy, so I sympathise with that. I think there's 2 points really. So first, the site's allocated for it's allocated for housing. So there is when the council obviously has to allocate certain numbers of houses to deliver. So there will when we allocate the sites, there is consideration. One of the main considerations given into allocating sites is that it would be like accessible for vehicular traffic, and that is modelled as such. There is a built-in assumption that the number of houses being proposed, so the allocation is for 32, this is for 33, so broadly speaking it's in line with the number of houses that were expected from this allocation. I think the second point is, given it's not a catch-all rebuttal to this concern, but it's a mitigating factor that the tenure of the houses is likely to be social rented accommodation, so that there would be an assumption built in that the number of vehicular movements from the site would be lower than in comparison to a market scheme. That's supported by national research, so there would be an assumption for that. But also it's been looked at by Highways, and as a general principle, we can only refuse on cumulative impact where it's demonstrably severe, and we've not, in my mind, in Highways view, that test has not been met. Thank you.
So you're waiting on the report, or you've had the report?
That's the response from Highways, and the assessment of the report is that there isn't an unacceptable impact.
Okay, the second one is about the public right of way with the footpath going through. Is that being moved, or doesn't it affect?
So the public access through the site will be maintained. So can we zoom in on the bottom left?
Is it 2 lines at the top?
It's right at the bottom left of the site layout. So where
Yeah.
I don't know if we can zoom in or not on it. Can we just move the mouse to the left a little bit, just to? So broadly speaking, where Phil's just highlighting the mouse now, that's the existing public right-of-way access from Hollyhock Drive.
Yeah.
And that's being maintained, and obviously it would be that there's a requirement for the applicant to do a formal diversion order, but that's only so it meets the new the road pathway, effectively the footpath, sort of along the type, so along the southern boundary of the site, off the site. So I think the short answer to your question is there'll be a small amendment to the formal route, but it will be maintained.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Coxhead.
Yeah, it's in regards to Debdale Lane and the floods that sort of occur there on a regular basis. It's indicating that it's located within the flood zone 1, which I just sort of wanted to ask, where exactly is that based? Also with this question is that it's got indicating there's infiltration basin and pumping station. Is this going to have any effect on how that road floods going forward after the development?
Thank you, Councillor. So there is an assumption that the the development's located in flood zone 1, so that relates to fluvial flooding from rivers and other water courses. Surface water flooding is that's like a separate issue. So there is a requirement for the development not to increase flooding elsewhere. That's a statutory consideration that is effectively not made worse by the development. So effectively the area of surface water flooding on the site is effectively where the infiltration basin and the pumping station would be. So all of that effective landscaping on the northern boundary of the site is proposed to effectively mitigate the fact that you're putting more development on the site and to ensure that there's not an increased flood risk onto Debdale Lane itself. That's and the flood authority haven't objected to that, and it's recommended as a condition prior to commencement to that effect.
Councillor Moxon.
Thank you. Just want to go back to the bit about the public access, the right of way, the footpath. What would happen during the construction phase, assuming this got planning permission and went ahead? What would happen during the construction phase to that public right of way?
Thank you, Councillor. So it's tricky to say to an extent, but I would imagine there would be obviously it's inevitable that during construction period of a construction site that there would be, I presume, some, I guess, initial groundworks. I would presume wouldn't have any sort of initial impact. I would presume during the construction of the actual road itself, I would presume there would be some temporary impact. But I think the presumption is that the policy for the allocation is that the main route is retained. That I think that would be met. I would presume there would be some. I guess it's inevitable that there's going to be some disruption during the construction period, but that will be time limited to the actual development itself. But I think there's a way around. I don't see that there's I guess the site's been allocated for construction and the site's been allocated for housing, and the policy requirement is that it's retained. I guess the fact that there's houses being built there would inevitably have some impact. To the extent I'm not sure, but the rights of way team have been consulted and they haven't raised an in principle objection. Just as a general considerations, but that would be my sort of general point. We seek to minimise it.
Excuse me, you can't interact with the committee. Sorry. Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Chair, just a couple of things, and I don't want to bang on too much about what I call a snicket, some people call a general, and I'm sure there's loads of different words for it, but people walk the dogs through that little snicket, I'll call it, and then across the field. Does it go out the other end? And after the houses are built, will it still go out the other end?
Thank you, Councillor. My understanding is that yes, that is it's like a through flow of a right of way. The development wouldn't change the principle of you can walk in from Hollyhock Drive and then leave from the eastern side of the site. That there is a requirement to divert the formal routing, but that's largely it's a legislative requirement. So there would be effectively you would still be able, once the site's completed, notwithstanding the construction phase, you would be able to that arrangement would stay the same and wouldn't be lost.
Just a second one talking about tenure. I think, if I've read it rightly, that some of them sold, not just rented.
And so it's not possible. So the application is subject to Homes England grant. So the application is subject to Homes England grant funding. There is a registered provider actually, but again, I can't say exactly. But I think the indication that I've had is that it will be all social rent, which is the definition of that is 50% off market value. I can't be 100% certain of that, but there is a presumption and indication that it will all be social rent as opposed to purchase at the end of it. But those details, that's why there's an obligation under the 106 for the final tenure to be confirmed prior to commencement of development.
Any further questions? It's indicated. Can I ask one? It was indicated by the speakers that it's a greenfield area, but am I right in thinking it used to be the school? Was the school and it was demolished? Were those the houses that are built already? Was it the playing field?
My understanding that the Hollyhocks development was on the school site itself. I'm not sure about the use of this because if you look at the levels, etc., I think it would have been difficult to argue that was it may have been an informal play area, but I don't think it was part of school.
No. Could I have a proposer and seconder? Councillor Hammersley proposes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Coxhead. In debate mode, would anyone like to comment? Or make a comment? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. I'm very surprised Highways has not got more to say on this, to be honest. I think sometimes the reports that come from Highways are lackluster at best. There's significant traffic along that road. I get stuck in it all the time. It's absolutely atrocious. Unfortunately, without more substantial reports from Highways, we're a little bit at their mercy because you can't turn down an application on a Highways basis where you've got a lackluster report that clearly, to me, doesn't substantiate the traffic that does go through there. But as I say, we're at their mercy because they've said it's okay. Given that, I think Councillor Alan Bell is not being able to come. I think it would be sensible to defer this application to the next meeting to give the councillor the opportunity to come and have his say. It's not his fault he's not being able to be here tonight. So I don't know procedurally whether that's something I can propose at this stage or whether we have to turn down the application initially. I'm sure you'll be able to clarify that, Mayfa, but my proposal would be to defer the application to the next meeting to give the councillor time to attend and have his say.
Just checking on procedure there, Councillor Stevenson. We've got a motion that's been proposed and seconded, which I'm prepared to take to the vote. If that was then lost, you could propose what you proposed if it's seconded. Of course, the inference is that if we defer it to the next meeting, Councillor Bell would be available to come and talk, but that's not always going to be guaranteed. We don't know how long Councillor Bell will be out of commission, so it may not work out like that. But we have a motion to approve the application as is stated. So if I take that to the vote, we'll see what happens with the vote. So could members please show those in favour by show of hands? On the motion to approve, yeah, there is no other motion at the moment. Oh, sorry. I thought you'd all finished with your things. Okay, Councillor Moxon, I'll let you speak.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I just wanted to reiterate what Councillor Stevenson said. I think we all know that this road is really busy. That's probably an understatement, actually, understatement of the year. And for this, then to have sort of 30 houses coming straight off that road, I think we all know sat here that the nonsense that because they're social housing that they won't have cars is not realistic. And I've heard these statistics before, and where they say, oh, like 1,000 homes will only generate 300 car movements in during peak time. It's just a nonsense. So but like Councillor Stevenson said, we'd be in a very sticky wicket if we then voted against it, despite the fact that Highway said that they got no concerns. So we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I guess that's where I am as well, stuck between a hard place of knowing that there's an issue here, but also knowing that because Highways have said that there isn't a problem and we voted against it, it would go to appeal and it would get overturned on appeal. So I'm really stuck with this one.
Does anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Thanks, Chair. I went there yesterday just to have a quick look, and actually I was sort of the tending towards thinking, yeah, this is a goer, although I've not heard the speakers, but I've also not heard their elected representative, Councillor Bell, and I'm not quite sure that, I think using sticky wicket is probably a good thing to say, because literally their democratically elected councillor has not had his chance to speak on their behalf and the residents' behalf. Clearly he knows the issues on Debdale Lane, as we all do, particularly if you live in Woodhouse. Secondly, I go back to what everybody else said about the highways issues. Debdale's busy, one of a better term. And I think that if we passed it, it goes through and Councillor Bell doesn't have his say. If we vote against it, it's gone. But obviously they would likely appeal and win, but still then their democratically elected councillor has not had his chance to speak. Not quite sure that that's democratic.
To bring officers in on the highways issue and other things. Phil?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the key point here is this is an allocated sign. So wherever access is going to be, it's going to be off Debdale Lane. And I think Councillor Moxon got it right in saying that we refused it on highway grounds. It will go to appeal. And likely, if those grounds can't be substantiated, costs will be awarded against the council. That's a risk. I can't comment on Councillor Bell's not being here to comment, but I think unless it can be demonstrated he's going to raise any new material planning considerations, which we don't know, then, you know, we don't know how long he's going to be off. So this could be deferred indefinitely. So there's also a risk then, on the basis of the information before you, that the applicant could appeal anyway before a decision is made based on non-determination. So they are some of the risks. It's an allocated site. Access is going to be off Debdale Lane. There are no statutory objections to it, subject to conditions. All the conditions are being suggested. As I say, I don't know what the position is in terms of waiting for Councillor Bell to comment. And we've not received anything in planning in terms of a comment from Councillor Bell during the processing of the application. And I think, yeah, and the cumulative impact of this has been assessed, and it will have been assessed as part of the local plan, your local plan that's been approved. And, you know, we think that our officer recommendation is that it's approved. There are just a few of the risks that I think we needed to point out to you. Thank you.
Councillor Tempest Mitchell, you wanted to speak? I'll let you come in.
Thank you, Chair. But am I right in thinking that the possibility that we might lose the appeal and the costs of that appeal are not a consideration in a decision of this in this process?
A little bit more advice. Thank you, Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Chair. In reply to the question, if I may, members must make reasonable decisions. That's ultimately what it comes down to, whether it being reasons for refusal or reasons for adjournment. Phil has already explained some of the risks and the practical problems that might arise should members wish to defer, and how Councillor Bell had the opportunity to make representations on the application, but seemingly did not. I reiterate the practical difficulties that would be, I reiterate the practical difficulties that would arise if there were an adjournment. If it were to next committee and he were not present, would you adjourn it again? Would you adjourn another time? The application is ready for determination. Officers have written the report. There's been a full debate. I agree with what Phil has said. I am struggling to see what additional points Councillor Bell might be able to raise that would be material to your decision.
With the comments that have been made, everyone's had a chance to air their views. We have got the motion proposed and seconded to approve. So I would like to take a vote by show of hands. Those in favour of granting planning permission for this application, please show. Those abstaining? Any against? The motion's being carried 6-4, 2 abstentions, none against. Thank you. Sorry, a late hand went up, so it's 7-4, 2 against, 2 abstentions. It's been carried. So. Planning application, can you keep quiet, please? It's not a discussion, and members of the public, I'm not going to respond to it. I can ask you to be removed from the room if you keep speaking. You've had your chance to speak. So, planning application. I'll just get my head together. Planning application reference 2025-006, full erection of 33 number affordable dwellings, associated access road, infiltration basin, pumping station and landscaping, land to the south of Debdale Lane, adjacent to Hollyoak Drive and Emerald Close, Mansfield, has been granted planning permission with conditions. Thank you. On to agenda item 6, planning application reference 2025-0298, full internal alterations to create a new first floor space with new roof lights, new door to side elevation and window alterations. Mansfield, Jamie Maseed, Goodacre Street, Mansfield. I invite the officer to make the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. The application site relates to Mansfield Maji Masjid, a non-designated heritage asset to the southeast side of Goodacre Street. The proposal is seeking full permission for internal alterations to create a first floor space, including new roof lights on both side elevations, a new door to the southwest side elevation, and alterations to the existing windows to the side elevation. The proposal involves lowering the existing internal ground floor level and suspending ceiling to provide sufficient headroom for the creation of a new first floor within the existing roof space. Can I have the next slide to show the cross section and the elevations, please? The new upper level will accommodate 4 prayer rooms, 2 of which would also function as classrooms, alongside male and female toilet facilities and dedicated wudu areas to facilitate the new ground floor levels. The threshold of the existing entrance door would be lowered by approximately 150 millimeters. A new stairway is proposed on the southwest side of the building with a new external door on the same elevation. In addition, new roof lights will be installed on both side elevations, and the openings of the existing side windows will be adjusted to align with the reversed ground floor ceiling height and new first floor layout. The proposal is considered acceptable in principle, given that it is within the Mansfield urban area and can accommodate multiple uses, including worship, education, and community uses. In terms of impacts of character and appearance of the area and heritage asset, the proposal has undergone several amendments throughout the course of the application, and the latest proposal, which is shown on the screen, including the style of the new roof lights, windows, and side door, will now accord with the comments and recommendations of the Conservation Officer. The internal works would also not affect the external appearance or character of the NDHA. Therefore, it is considered that the latest proposal is acceptable and would not result in any adverse impacts on the character, appearance, distinctiveness, or significance of the NDHA or its setting. In terms of residential amenity impacts, one public objection received highlight concerns over vehicles arriving late at night, doing turns in the road with headlights, and setting off alarms. The proposal aims to provide a suitable space for the mosque's existing congregation rather than increasing its capacity. The busiest time of the mosque is Friday midday, with smaller evening classes Monday to Thursday. Environmental health raised no objections and recommended conditions to restrict the hours of construction and delivery materials, submit a construction management plan, and address any unexpected contamination. Given that the congregation size will not increase, that there are no new extensions and only new roof lights are proposed, the proposal is not expected to cause any significant noise disturbance, adverse overlooking, overshadowing, or overbearing impacts to the occupiers of the nearby properties. Overall, the proposal is considered acceptable in terms of residential amenity. In terms of highway safety, public objections received have highlighted concerns to traffic and parking, which is also the main reason why this application has been referred to committee. As mentioned above, the proposal would simply allow those previously using the external space. Can you show the slides with the carport, please? Yes, so that's the external space to the side of the building. It has sort of a carport structure on top, which is to be used when there's an overspill in the mosque. So the proposal would simply allow those using the space to be accommodated within the building, and there is no intention to increase the congregation beyond 200. There has also never been any on-site parking provision. As such, subject to conditions for cycle parking layout on the proposed plan to be provided and retained, Highway Authority do not raise a concern to the proposal, and a refusal on highway grounds will not be justified in this instance. Therefore, it is considered that the proposal will not have significant adverse impact on highway safety. In terms of biodiversity net gain, the proposed development is on existing hard standing, does not impact a priority habitat, and impact less than 25 square meters of on-site habitat. Therefore, it is exempted from the BNG rules. Other matters that are in relation to this application is flood risk. The proposal includes lowering the internal ground floor level by approximate 400 millimeters to allow the first floor space to be utilized. The site is in flood zone 1,